sen.
Hadi. Tamam sen reklamı götürüp yazdıracaksın.
Nerede yazdıracaksın?
Hepinize iyi akşamlar. Yapı dünyasının, yapı sektörünün değerli misafirleri, değerli paydaşları, hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Öncelikle sizlere bu güzel kalabalık, saygın, renkli kalabalık için çok teşekkürler. T Buluşmaları'nın ilkinde böylesi güzel bir ilgi gerçekten bizi çok mutlu etti. Ve tabii Fujimoto'ya da çok teşekkürler, sizleri buraya getirdi. Şişecam ve Düzcam grubu hakkında kısa videomuzu seyrettiniz. Bizler de mimari camlar olarak yapı sektörüne çok farklı fonksiyonlarda geniş bir ürünle hizmet ediyoruz. Hedefimiz kaliteli ve günün ihtiyaçlarını karşılayabilecek özelliklerde ürünler sunmak. Cam, sizlerin de bildiği gibi şeffaflığıyla öncelikle güneş ışığından maksimum oranda faydalanmayı sağlaması. Onun yanı sıra sizler için önemli olduğunu düşündüğüm diğer malzemelerle uyumlu bir şekilde kullanılabilmesi, farklı formlara sokulabilmesi, hatta zaman zaman eğilip bükülebilmesi ama taşıyıcı bir malzeme olacak kadar güçlü ve sağlam bir şekilde de durabilmesi adına sektör için çok önemli bir ürün. Biz de açıkçası bu ürünün yapı sektörü için öneminden hareketle elbette hizmetlerimizi, ürünlerimizi yoğun Ar-Ge faaliyetlerimizle ve elbette günün ve sizlerin ihtiyaçlarınıza en uygun şekilde sürekli geliştiriyoruz ve elbette geliştirmeye devam edeceğiz. Camlarımız dekorasyon, gürültü kontrolü ve tabii ki günümüz ihtiyaçlarına dikkate alacaksak en önemli ihtiyaçlarımızdan biri olan enerji tasarrufu sağlayan ısı yalıtım camlarıyla hizmet veriyoruz. Bu anlamda hepimizin odak noktası küresel ısınma nedeniyle enerji tasarrufuna odaklanmak. Bütün çalışmalarımızı bizler üretimlerimizde, sizler de eminim ki projelerinizde, tasarımlarınızda odak noktası halinde tutuyorsunuz. Bir örnek verecek olursak, eminim hepiniz biliyorsunuz ama bu sene 40. yılını doldurduğunu bilmiyor olabilirsiniz. Nitelikli ısı cam ürünlerimiz işte tam da bugünün ihtiyacı olan enerji tasarrufuna yönelik gerçekten çok önemli katkılar sağlayan ürünlerimizden bir tanesi. Isı yalıtımını tek cam veya standart çift camlara göre 4 kat arttırıyor. Ama hani 4 kat deyince belki çok şey ifade etmiyor. Beni etkileyen ve eminim sizi de etkileyecek olan, yani elimizde bir sihirli değnek olsa ve Türkiye'de bütün camları nitelikli ısı cam yapabilsek, her yıl 2,5 milyar dolar tasarruf sağlayabilir ülkemiz. Ya bunlar tabii çok önemli rakamlar, çok önemli kazançlar ama birey olarak bile benim evimin camını tek camdan nitelikli camlara çevirdiğimde doğaya 2 adet ağaç hediye ettiğimi bilmek bile Türkiye'de üretilen ürünlerin veya bu bilginin gerçekten enerji tasarrufuna bir derecede olsa bir katkı sağlaması adına çok rahatlatıcı. Evet, çözüm ortağı olmak. Düzcam grubu olarak önemli bir hedefimiz sizlerin, yapı sektörünün tüm paydaşlarının çözüm ortağı olabilmek. Bizim uzmanlık alanımız cam. Dolayısıyla öncelikli sorumluluğumuz cam hakkında bildiğimiz her şeyi sizlere aktarabilmek. Ama diğer yandan camı yapı sektörünün önemli bir malzemesi olarak gördüğümüz için sadece cam değil, aslında yapı sektörünün ilgisi içinde olan tüm bakış açılarını, tüm gelişmeleri yapı sektörüyle paylaşabilmek, buluşturabilmek. Bu anlayışla, bu da önemli bir sorumluluk çünkü, bu anlayışla son yıllarda Camdan Yansımalar ismiyle de etkinlikler gerçekleştik. Referans projeleri, bu projelerin yaratıcılarından dinledik. Onların bakış açılarını, mimariye karşı görüşlerini dinledik, paylaştık. Bugün de T buluşmalarıyla bunu biraz daha global hale getirmeyi istedik. Bugün sizlerin eminim farklı bakış açısını dinlediğinizde fikirlerinizi daha da çoğaltacak, belki çakıştıracak çok genç Japon bir mimarı ağırlıyoruz. Fujimoto. Fujimoto bildiğiniz gibi tasarımlarını daha çok kullanıcıların hayal gücüne, onların ilhamına bırakmayı tercih eden bir mimar. Doğayla bütünleşik, için dışla bütünleştiği yapılar yapmayı tercih ediyor. Evet, tabii daha fazla ben anlatacak değilim. Açıkçası en doğru olan artık sizi çok bekletmeden onunla buluşturmak. Sizlere keyifli bir saatlik dinleti diliyorum. Hepinize tekrar çok teşekkür ederken Fujimoto'yu sahneye davet ediyorum. Please, so Fujimoto, stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. Good evening. How are you? Just a moment. I will set up the water. Thank you very much this evening for inviting me to this really special event, and thank you very much for coming. I think this is the third time for me to be in Istanbul. And the first time was about 20 years ago. It was just after my school days. And I really like to travel to see the real architecture and the city in abroad. So I came here, and it was almost 1 month trip. And so in Turkey and in Greece. So I stayed here, and the impression of the city of Istanbul was so powerful, so fantastic. And that was very beautiful memory for me. It was one of the starting point. I was fascinated by the Hagia Sophia or Topkapi. Of course, it is quite touristic place, but still, it was fantastic for me. And I really enjoyed the Grand Bazaar. Not the shopping, but fascinated by the space itself. And because that was the very early days of my architecture career, I just started my office. But of course, I didn't have any projects, any commissions. And I didn't know what kind of a architecture or what kind of a concept I will have. So I was young, and I was not so, convinced. I was really unstable. So that kind of the strong memory in such a period was so strong. So I'm very, very happy to come back here again. And today I will talk about my architecture, of course. And the main theme is transparency. And the transparency is quite deep, fundamental topic in architecture, as you know. Because it is not only just transparent itself, but for example, less transparent or translucent or opaqueness from the window, glass window to the wall. We will have various different type of the transparencies. So architecture, in a sense, is to create such kind of different kinds of transparencies to control the openness and closeness, or to create the public, or to create the privacies. So architecture topic is, we can say, the topic of the transparency. And the subtitle is Between Nature and Architecture. And it is always, again, very fundamental topic. Of course, we design architecture, and the nature is almost the opposite side. But if you think about our living environment, half of our living environment are made by nature. And of course, half of the rest is the architecture. So how we deal with these opposite things together, combine them together to create the rich living environment is very, very important. And I'd like to talk about my background briefly. I was born and grown up in the Hokkaido island. It's a northern island. It's full of nature. So, yeah, this is my childhood days background. And then I moved to Tokyo to get into the university. So this is the Tokyo, and you will see it is quite artificial and quite ugly and completely opposite from my hometown. But for me, both of them are quite important. And after learning architecture and after started my office, I thought this almost opposite side of my background is coming together. It's like overlapping together. It could have the same concept behind it. Because in nature, it's really comfortable because maybe you will be surrounded by many trees, tree leaves, and the small grasses, and every small things are surrounding you in a nice scales. So you feel really protected, enclosed, cozy feelings. And in Tokyo, of course, appearance is completely opposite. But you will see so many small things are surrounding you, the bicycles or these flags and some strange, ugly small things are surrounding you. So the situation is quite similar. You are surrounded by such a small, many small things, protected in a cozy scales. So the appearance is different, but the situation is quite similar. Then I thought, the architecture design is not only dealing with these kind of artifacts, but if nature's situation and the Tokyo situation is quite similar, we can deal both of them as equal conditions, or we can mix them together, or we can use both of them as a kind of the source of the design to create the architecture environment. So that was the starting point for me to think about architecture in that meanings, the combination of the nature and the architecture. And then that is based on my simple background, grown up in nature and then based in Tokyo and deal with these opposite things together. So today I will, of course, talk about many projects, but most of them has such kind of a beautiful contrast of the opposite concept. Nature and architecture is one of the typical things. But if you think about nature and architecture, then we think about, for example, outside, inside, or simplicity, complexity, or different scales, the furniture scales, architecture scales, or more urban scales. That kind of a beautiful contrast, and trying to find something between that is the topic of my lecture. And this first project is kind of a typical examples how we deal with such kind of opposite things together to find out new frontier in between that. Yeah, this is the Serpentine Pavilion last year. Sorry. Yeah, as you know, this is in London, and every year they appointed different architects to design the summer pavilion for about 4 months or 4.5 months. And the site is really beautiful, surrounded by the beautiful greens in the park. And the program, the function is pavilion. It means like a cafe usually. But not only cafe, it will be used for the lecture spaces or event spaces, something like that. So that kind of a multi-use pavilion was the program. And this is the site. Yeah, this is the Serpentine Gallery, contemporary art gallery, and then surrounded by park, and this is the site. So what we did is to create the whole structures by these kind of a really thin steel materials. It is only 2 centimeter steel pipe, combine them together to make a grid. And the size of the grids, the small one is 40 centimeter, and sometimes the big one is a double size, 80 centimeters. And then, yeah, the whole structures are made by such a huge grid. And you will see around here, we put the glass on it, so you can walk on, stepping up, or sit on it. And then it has an interior space, of course, coming here like this. And behind this densities of the grids, you have a space, and then go out from these directions. So it is like a cloud. Of course, made by really strong steel structures, but still it is really soft impressions. Yeah, this is from above, and we made the stepping areas on the roof as well. So the sitting woman looks like sitting on the cloud, floating in the cloud, and under the roof, behind this not wall. There is no walls, but there is no windows, but it has the transparency or translucency. So you will see some people's inside of the pavilions, and you will see how these straight line, the grid structures, 90-degree super artificial grid structures is making finally the softness of like a cloud. So we have the beautiful contrast of the straightness and the softness, or the beautiful contrast of the 90-degree artificial order, and maybe the order of the cloud. It's more like a complex order in the nature. And the process was very, very exciting. The design period was very short, so we have to concentrate a lot. And the conversation, especially the conversation with the client, the Serpentine Gallery people, was very, very exciting. And we only had the 1 month for the idea phase. So we created the first sketches in 10 days or something and send it to them. And then we made phone conferences, phone discussions. And yeah, of course, I sent. And I asked, how is this? How do you think? And they said, no. This is not the Serpentine Pavilion quality. You have to think something different. And I asked why? Why not? This is too much Fujimoto-like, they said. Okay. Yeah, you pointed Sou Fujimoto architects, and I'm Fujimoto. I made something, but you don't like Fujimoto. Maybe I will try something different. So then next week I made some different sketches, send it to them. And then again, to make a phone call. How is that? They said, no. No again. Why? This is too much not Fujimoto-like. Okay. So you don't like Fujimoto and you don't like not Fujimoto. So maybe, yeah, something between Fujimoto and not Fujimoto will be the things. But of course, yeah, I understood what they say. It is the Serpentine Pavilion should be something coming from the architect's career, but at the same time, not just the following project of the previous works, but should be something new. So in that meaning, it should be Fujimoto-like, but should not be Fujimoto-like. So we tried it again and again, and finally, of course, we agreed on the really highest point, I think. So that kind of a discussion with the client sometimes make me more think about that, and more and more, we can update. This is not a compromising thing. This is like a collaborations. And what I thought throughout the process was very simple. We just got two very simple starting point. One is the surroundings. As I said, it is surrounded by nature. So how to deal with the natures, how to make a relationship to the natures, and architectural pavilion was the very simple starting point. And another starting point was the program, cafe, and the multi-purpose space. And I thought, of course, it is a cafe, so people can come here and sit to have a coffee or something. But in the cafe, I like to provide more, diverse space where people can behave as they like, not just sit on the table, but to use the spaces as they like. So it is more like a landscape, I thought. So it is in the process model. Yeah, it looks like the continuous surface is getting like a Frangeli shape. But my intention on this model was to create like a artificial landscape where people can sit on or line on or group together to allow such kind of various different activities there. But it's still like not yet satisfying, because when we think about the beautiful surroundings, this strong surface is really blocking the view. So I like to go beyond that. And one day, I got an idea to transform this surface into grids. So to keep these landscaping feelings, but to make the concrete surface into grids. Then it is all transparent or translucent, and still you can keep the stepping landscape-like feelings. Not the surface, not the smooth surface, but you can keep the stepping areas as a landscape. So that was the moment the final idea came out. So starting from the landscaping, but finally could have more communication to the surrounding beautiful greens. And then, this is the bigger model. So you will see how kind of a transparent or translucent the whole structure is. But the important and exciting point is the translucency or transparency is changing according to the depth of the spaces. For example, you will see some these areas is really transparent, but if it is really dense, then it is getting almost opaque. But some area around here, it is again slightly getting transparent. So the whole transparency or translucencies, or where to have more like a wall and where to have more like a window, is always changing according to how you feel the depth of the structures. Here you will see this is inside. So we have this kind of a stepping landscaping, and the landscaping going up like a continuous surface, and then coming down on the another point. So it is keeping such kind of a continuous surface line, but completely changing into the grids. And you will see some area, this area really transparent, because the depth is very thin. But some area is really dense. So in this photo, you will see some less dense area as a window, but if you walk 5 steps away from here, the depth of the space is different. So you will see some dense area is getting more transparent, or the transparent area is getting more dense. So the whole impression of the space is not like a fixed structures. It's more like a moving cloud-like structure surrounding you. It is one of the most amazing points. You will see how, this is a thin, transparent areas. Gradually, it's getting more and more dense. So it is not like a window and walls, no clear boundaries. It has more gradient changings. And this is one of the biggest stepping areas. So it is working as an auditorium-like seating areas, but usually it's more like huge seating areas. Anywhere you can choose to sit on, alone or together to walk up, or group up with 10 people or something like that. And actually it has a roof. It's almost transparent, but it has a roof because the roof is the minimal requirement from them. So we finally find the solutions to make a roof with a really transparent. You will see the shape of the disc, transparent disc, is layering together around here. So many discs, because the size of the disc is something like this, and the layering together on it. Then the rainfalls is coming here, but again and again falling down, going out into the outside of the pavilion. It works, but not completely perfectly. Sometimes the leaking water is coming down, but I've heard many of the people thought these leakings was one of the, part of the installations and the intention of the architects. So I'm very happy to have such a positive people inside. But anyway, this is the view of the opening lecture. So suddenly it's changing into the auditorium-like things, and the shape of the people is making the shape of the pavilion. And in the evening, it is like that. So it's beautifully light up. So this is made by the steel materials, the real things, but in the evening it is almost like a half real and a half unreal, surreal-like existence. And in here you will see how we use the small scale, furniture scale like things. The grid size is 40 centimeters, so you can just sit on, or you can walk up. So starting from such a furniture scales, but gradually it's coming together to create architectural scales, and then it is getting more like a bigger landscaping scales. So the scales, the furniture small scales and the architectural scales and the landscaping scales, such a different scales are integrated together to create such a melting situations. And of course, inside and outside is always, how to say, changing, sometimes going through inside, outside, like these transparencies, but sometimes it's getting really translucent to work as a wall, protect you. So how you are protected and how you are open to the surroundings is always changing. So this kind of a steel structure, but the dynamic experience is another opposite concept melting together. And of course, transparencies and opaqueness, inside and outside, straightness and the softness and the grids, artificial order and the natural cloud order are combined together. So we try to find out some new quality, new values between these kind of two existing usual concepts. So inside, outside, both of them is quite usual. But if you think about something between inside and outside, then some new challenge is happening. And then, this is a private house. And again, it is quite challenging things, melting the different things together. And this is the middle of the Tokyo, so you will see how small the plot is. It's quite almost like a 5 meter and 9 meter something. So together with the client, at the very beginning, we gave up the bigness of the house because it's small. So we try to go to the opposite side. We gave up the size of the house, but we try to achieve the diversities of the house. So we try to divide the small plot in smaller pieces of the floors, and then to make different levels to create 20 more different areas in this kind of a small plot. And then you could choose 20 different rooms, not rooms, but areas, 20 different corners in your house. So your choice is really, really big. And then it's making your life more rich, we thought. So finally, it is like this. So you will see how each floor is quite small. It's almost like the size of the table or size of the furniture. But if you stuck them up, then to create rather bigger volume of the house. So you will see we have 20 different rooms in this small house, or you have only one room with 20 different corners. But both of them are, of course, the same things. And both of them means clients have more and more choice to choose in their daily life, depending on how many people with you, or what is the feelings, or how open you like to make it, or how close it is. Because, yeah, of course, you will be surprised to see how transparent it is. But these physical transparencies are, how to say, combined together with these small, many small things. The floors, columns is quite small. So every small thing is surrounding you, like I described, like a Tokyo I described, surrounding you to create a really soft territory. So if you are inside here, you feel really comfortably protected, even though it is really transparent. And of course, finally, yeah, the clients put some curtains to block the view. But the curtains, well done, because usually we put the curtains on the window, on the glass. But he's the client and she's the client. They arrange the curtains, not only the window side, but more like a layering of the curtains. So some of the curtains just divide this side and that corners slightly, and then 3-4 layers made by the curtains. Then it is working very, very well in this house, because the curtains is another element to create the comfortable densities, not only just blocking the view. So sometimes you can just open the curtains on the window side, but close the curtains one behind or two behind to create the different depths of the houses. So in that sense, it is really nice collaboration with the client to create the comfortable spaces. And of course, these stepping areas could work as sometimes as a bench or tables or shelves, and of course, the smallest rooms. So this room, for example, it has only 80 centimeter high, so it's not high enough for the rooms. But if you are just sitting inside, it works. It is one of the smallest study space or something like that. But of course, usually it works as a shelves or something like that. So the meanings of the furniture and the meanings of the room and the meanings of the house is always changing from that side to the opposite side, depending on your interaction to the house. So in that sense, the functions in this house is almost infinite, depending on your behaviors, depends on how you like to use each different corners. So in that sense, I think the function is not given before our activities. The function is always defined by the interaction between the space and your activities. And then, this is, suddenly the scale is expanding. This is a project in the Middle East, and this was a competition project, and huge. It is 1.5 kilometer long and huge site, and the competition requirement is to create the shopping areas throughout this site. So it's really crazy, exciting things to design the whole urban fabrics by one architect. But of course, it's a big challenge because we have to struggle with the big scales. And it was the first time for me to do some project in the Middle East, and the first time for me to do such a huge project. So that kind of a first time things is really exciting because I don't know how I can react to that. I don't know what kind of things we can find out from such a different climate conditions, different cultural background, and different scales. And finally, we designed the 7-8 huge towers because, this is a really flat and a flat land, almost a desert. So like to have some kind of a landmark. That's a very simple starting point. But at the same time, the experience of the shopping is just walking like a Grand Bazaar. But I like to have, if this is such a huge, I like to have nice rhythm of the shopping. So this huge tower has huge void inside. So every, for example, 30 minutes, you will go into this big void to have a break or to have a tea or something like that. So your experience is more or less something like this, to have a good rhythm, to have a break and to concentrate on the shoppings or something like that. And at the same time, this big void is working as a climate controlling tower. It is like a natural ventilation tower to get the rather cooler air from the bottom, and then the hot air is going out. So it is working as not just a landmark, not just the big void, but the huge air conditioning machine. And the last things was to create the sunshade, because in the Middle East it has a really strong sunlight. So we try to use the whole structures as a sunshade. So all the glass, all the walls are set back from the outside. So you will see so many layers of the arch are coming together to create a tower, but everything is working as a sunshade. And then I think this is the first time for me to use this arch shape, but the main structures or main geometries is almost same as the Serpentine Pavilion. It's made by the grid, small grids, sometimes double-sized grids combined together, or the triple-sized grids together. So in a sense, so different, 100 times different scales, or 1,000 times different scales, but the geometry is the same. To put the small grids together to create the spaces. Of course, in the case of the serpentine, the whole shape is like a cloud. And in this case, the whole shape is more like a tower, but the basic concept is the same. And then, again, the view from the void, big void, you will see how these layers of the grids is working as a sunshade. Not only one sunshade, but the layers of these kind of three-dimensional layers of the grids is creating a really, really complex sunshade. And controlled light is coming down like a particle of the light. So it is really amazingly beautiful, I think. In some area, we have the huge water on the inside, and using the boats to do some, I don't know, something. And some many programs in the middle above. So it is almost like a surreal experiences. And this is like this. The silhouette is this kind of different densities. Almost the whole shape is made by the particle of the light. So that was the huge competition programs and project. And we send the 20 numbers of the A0 panels, and then we talked about the date of the presentations. But finally, at the last moment, they just cancel the whole project. So no first prize, no second prize, just everything stopped and vanished. But of course, it's pity. But sometimes it's happened in architecture world. And I myself was rather happy to have this kind of a crazy opportunity to design huge scale and different climate conditions and the different background. Then I didn't imagine to expand the great ideas of the serpentine into such a huge scales. And I didn't imagine to create these kind of crazy spaces. But the background conditions, climate conditions, make me inspire to make something beyond my existing imaginations. So in that sense, throughout the communication with the project or communication with the different cultures, different climate, we can make our imagination bigger and bigger, expanding. So in that sense, the opportunity itself is quite amazing. But of course, it's really pity. So every time I do the lecture in the world, I'm always calling for the client, possible future clients to make it together. It's like a collaborations, historical collaborations. And of course, I imagine some of you has a lot of money, so you will be the clients, you will be the historical clients, something like that. Anyway, sorry, it's a joke. Okay, the scale is now coming down into one of the smallest project I did. It's a public toilet project in Japan. Yeah, you will see the toilet and transparency here and the wall. So this is the public toilet, only one toilet, public toilet. So but for me, the public toilet is very exciting program because of course it may sound funny, but the public toilet is public. Everybody can use it, but at the same time, it is really private. Once you use it, it's really private. So we have to think about the relationship between the public and private. So it's really fundamental of architectural topics. And of course, the surroundings was like a more countryside. So how to open, but at the same time, how to close it is another problem, another topic. And it is also quite architectural fundamental topic. And of course, we have a nature, and we have architecture, And maybe inside, when we do toilet, it is another kind of a fundamental nature. So nature, architecture, and nature. So it is really dealing with such kind of a fundamental relationship between nature and architecture. So in that sense, the public toilet, especially that kind of a small public toilet, is quite fundamental, exciting things. So I said yes to this project. When I get the phone call from the clients, I just say, wow, this is exciting, I like to do it. And then we propose this kind of a rather crazy toilet. But I have to explain it. Yeah, this is something like this. Toilet and the glass box, and we have a wall like this, surrounding. And it has a door around here, and you can lock the door. So, once you come in, you lock the door, and then suddenly this big garden is your private garden. And yeah, of course, you can do the toilet here, or there, or somewhere else. So it's quite simple strategy, but it's quite simple but architectural strategies. We just multiply the wall, meaning of the wall. Yeah, usually the wall has several different meanings. They block the view and block the air. But in this case, we divide the meanings of the wall in two different walls. This wall is not blocking the view, but just blocking the air. So it is just a glass. And this wall, on the other hand, just blocking the view, but not blocking the air. So the air is continuous, you can enjoy the landscape, but block the view. But if you divide the meanings of the wall, and then to create the distances, then you will have kind of a strange, fascinating experiences, blocked from the view, from the surroundings, but still you can enjoy the surroundings. That is the strategy, simple strategies and architectural strategies of this toilet. This is the plan. So you have a wall and the toilet, and that's all. Door, you can lock it. But of course, yeah, if you are emergency situations, it's a bit tough toilet because finally you open the door and then you will see 20 meters more to do the toilet. So you have to run 20 meters more. But anyway, usually it works. Yeah, this is something like this. And the wall itself is really simply made. It's made by the timber, pile, sticking into the ground and combine them together. So it's really simple, primitive way to make it. And using the transparency glass and keep the existing landscape as much as possible. So this is a door, and you will see the house over there. So maybe you will be afraid that some people from this floor will see it, but we carefully designed the height of the wall. So if you are sitting on here, they don't see it. So it's really delicate design. And here, this is the existing tree. And we designed the landscape more like a very natural green field-like things. And this is a part of the city. Of course, this is a public project. And the city government is promoting that city as an art city. So they not only this toilet, but they renovated the art museum, or they put some small installations throughout the whole city. And then they like to make such kind of a brand of the city as an art and architecture. And this spring, they made the 2-month period of the art fair. So welcome many people to go around the whole city to find out some art pieces, to see these kind of crazy things, to enjoy the whole city. And of course, at that time, this toilet was already very famous, gets very famous, because this is quite strange. So many people came to this toilet using the huge bus, not only one, but the 2 buses, 3 buses parking around there, and then hundreds of the people is just come in, not to do the toilet, but to just sit on and take photos, and then next guy sit on the toilet, like that. So it's more like a tourist spot. And then finally, city government people realized, yeah, there are a lot of people, so hundreds of the people. Then, of course, some of the people likes to do the toilet. Of course, they are coming to the toilet, so they can do that, but they cannot do that because so many people are there. So finally, they put kind of a movable, temporary toilet behind this wall. So I think this is the first toilet in the world which requires more toilet for that. So the toilet for the toilet and for the toilet, something like endless things. But anyway, yeah, it was a big success. That means it was a big success. And this is not a permanent, this is a temporary, not the temporary thing, this is a permanent thing. So if you like to visit here, then you can come, and then anytime you will see, you will do the toilet. And then this is another examples to make the meanings of the wall in a multiple layers. This is a private house, but this house has 3 layers of the wall: the big box, middle box, and small box, and with many openings. But the openings on the big box has no glass, no skylights. So inside of the big box is outside. So it has trees, just like the toilet. Inside of the wall is still outside, but kind of a territory, protected territories. And then this middle box has a glass on it. So inside of this middle box is inside, but still outside of this small box. This small box is just a box, but it is dividing slightly inside and outside. So these 3 box in box, you will have the blurring definition, blurring boundaries from the inside and outside. Here, of course, it is outside, but still inside of your territory. So sometimes you could enjoy such kind of a half inside, half outside experiences. And here you will have in-between spaces, and here you have more deeper inside. So you could choose the gradation from the gradations, very outside, very inside, private areas, public areas, and in between, many in-between spaces. Then your choice is, more various, and I think your choice of the life is getting more rich, I think. That is the meanings to make the gradations of the wall, because if you have only one wall, you can just in or out. But in this case, you could choose half in, half out, or almost out, but slightly in, such kind of a various different options you have for your life. And this is the place of the in-between space. You will see this is outside, but still protected by the wall, so half inside, half outside spaces. And the view from above, it's like a big box, but if you are closer, it's like a translucent big box, concrete box, but it's really light and transparent. And once you step in, then it is like with many trees, but still protected by the big box. And if you are in the middle of the house, you will see how the 3 layers, this is small box, middle box, and big box, and the sky. But this layering of the openings is creating such kind of a multiple particle of the skies. 10, 20 different skies are covering you, and the surrounding things are smaller divided. So finally you feel you are protected by the 3 layers of the walls, well protected. But at the same time, it's open to various different directions. Open to the sky, you are surrounded by the skies, not only by the walls, not only by the architectures, but the sky as well is surrounding you. So in here, we have the both extreme side, the completely open and completely protected, but we have many in-between spaces. And you could enjoy the openness or closeness, according to where to sit or which corner to be there or which layers you were there. So you can choose in your life. So that is the richness of the life, I think. So if you think about some space in between, outside, inside, you could have more choice. And that is kind of a new space, I think. So again, this is half outside, half inside. In a sense, it's the biggest room in this house, bigger than the house itself. But still, it is like a room, garden, in between spaces. So this is another example to make the walls in a multiple layers, not just only one walls, but 3 layers of walls to create such a richness of our life. And then I have 2 more projects. This one is the library in Tokyo. It's a library for art university. And this is really simple library, all made by the bookshelves. So you will see the bookshelves even on the outside wall, and inside is like this. Everything is like a bookshelves. Because I like such kind of a simplicity, the library, all made by the bookshelves, because the library is the space for the book. So we started the ideas from the bookshelves, growing to create the areas for the people, growing and growing, and finally it is like a huge monsters of the bookshelves, like this. It is 6,500 square meters, so it's big, but it is all made by one continuous bookshelves. But the key of this space is these openings. It's like the house, previous house, with a box in box in box. It has many, many openings, layered, shifting and layered. Then we have, of course, this is a spiral, so we have many layers of the spaces. But with these openings, you will see through that kind of layers, but could not see everything, just to feel the depths of the spaces. And then you can feel you are in the middle of the book forest, and then starts to walk around, some kind of a nice expectations, nice feelings is coming from behind the walls, because small windows is showing some small part. That kind of things is making expectations, invitations to you. So you start to walk around endlessly. And I thought the library, of course, is the place where you will search books, find books, and read books. But at the same time, the library is like a place of the forest of the books, where you will walk around in the forest for no strict purpose. But when you are walking around the forest, sometimes you will get some new ideas, or you will encounter some unexpected books. So that kind of unexpected functions is one of the exciting things for the library, I thought. So how to create such kind of artificial forest-like structures was the main key for this design. And finally, combination of the spiral geometries and with many, many openings is creating the feelings of the depth and the feelings of the almost infinity is making you, inspire you to walk around and almost endlessly to feel like a forest. So this is like this. You will see how this spiral is making the many, many layers. So you will be surrounded by so many bookshelves, so many books. So if you like books, it's like a book heaven. You're almost in the middle of the books. But if you don't like book, it's like a book hell. You couldn't go out infinitely from the world of the book. But anyway, it's finished. And it is coming out to the outside and covered by the glass. But if they like to make an extension, they just put a roof on it and take the glass out to use the bookshelves as a kind of a extension part. It's like a Le Corbusier's infinite growing library, art museum. And inside, you will see several different layers. This is the one layers with huge openings, and another layers, and openings, and another layers. So it has several different layers, of course limited layers, but the impression is like it has almost infinite layers. And the ceiling height here is really high, it's almost 9 meters, and the internet area is around here. And then the main area of the library is on the upper level. And made by the bookshelf with many, many openings. And the ceiling was very special. It has a skylights like this, but it's covered by the plastic materials. So then, of course, it softens the skylights like a cloud, but at the same time, it reflects the bookshelves like this, so through the ceilings. So the impression is like the bookshelf is not stopping on the line of the ceilings, but it is more continuing to the upwards. And then the ceiling is like a soft cloud, softly covering you to make a beautiful contrast of this strong impression of the bookshelves and the soft impression of the ceilings. And then you will see how many layers, these layers, openings, and then another bookshelf, and openings, and another bookshelves, and here this direction again. And the whole space is spiral. So it's curved and vanished in the end around here. So in every different directions, you have a space, depth of the space, and then the vanishing. You have the depth of the space, and then vanishing. So that kind of a vanishing space is creating the feelings of the infinity, and you cannot stop walking around. But sometimes you stop to sleep. Yeah, I think this photo I like very much because she is representing how comfortable this space is. So, but seriously, I like to talk about the scale to make this space comfortable, because this is a spiral. So each space between two walls are more like a cozy residential space. In this case, it's almost about 4.5 meters something. So it's really residential scale. So every space between the wall is really comfortable, fitting to the space for sleeping or reading. But at the same time, the whole impression of the library is like this. It's almost like a widely spreading, almost infinitely throughout the whole floors. And you will see such kind of a distances exaggerated by the layers. So more than 3,000 square meters, it is spreading. So you almost couldn't see, you see the end, but you are not sure this is the very end because it is hidden. So layering of the wall is creating such kind of a vast spreading feelings. So we have two opposite scales, really cozy residential scales, but at the same time, thousands of square meters is spreading endlessly. Then between these two scales, you could choose, or you could feel in between scales, or you could choose both of them to experience the wide range of the space experiences. And both feelings, cozy things and wide-spreading things, both of them are really fundamental for the library experience, I think. Reading books or endlessly walking around in the book forest, both of them is really fundamental. But it is completely opposite. Try to create the combination of them by the one simple form of the spiral bookshelves. That is the really miracle moment of the architecture, I think. Architecture sometimes could realize such kind of impossible opposite things realized together by the simple form. That is the exciting moment, I think. In the evening, the inside is more coming out. Okay, this is the last project. It is the housing tower in the south of France, the city of Montpellier. And we won a competition this spring, and now we are doing the design process, and the construction will start next summer. And the city of Montpellier is the yeah, the Mediterranean city, and even the wintertime, the climate is very warm, and they got a lunch on the terrace outside, something like that. So traditionally, they have been enjoying such kind of a Mediterranean climate. So we try to create the contemporary representation of their life and of their climate. And finally, we propose something like this. It is, you will see so many balconies is sticking out, sometimes sunshade. Some of them is really huge, 8-meter long and 5-meter wide, like bigger than the room or something like that. Because, yeah, they like the life on the terrace. So even in such kind of a high-rise buildings, we try to respect their lifestyle, to translate their traditional lifestyle into the contemporary architecture. So it is something like that. So many hundreds of the balconies is sticking out to create the whole impression. It's more like something beyond the usual building, like that. And the site is on the river, and a beautiful river, and the whole shape is a bit strangely curved. That is why the whole thing is making the impression of not like a buildings, it's more like a pine cone or the trees or something, pineapple or something like that. Because the plot is like this. The size of the plot is something like this, but we had already the green belt, green areas alongside the river. So I just like to keep that, to continue to another existing green line. So to make a continuous green line. That is one point. And another point is, it is an existing building. So, of course, something is coming here, but try to keep as much view as possible. So then, our building is naturally changing the shape in a rather organic shape. And of course, the ideas of the balcony is kind of a really usual strategy. Every apartment has a balcony, so it's not new ideas. But once combined with this curved shape coming from the site conditions and the huge balconies coming from the traditional local lifestyle, then it is getting really, really amazing. New and old typology of the housing, I think. So you will see how the balconies is sticking out, not only one from one house, but the 2, 3 from one house. Or if you have a duplex, then 2 different level balconies combined by the staircases. So it is really like not just a balcony, it's more like exterior rooms connected to each other to the extension of the house itself. Then from the balcony, you will see the Mediterranean Sea to that direction, or the opposite, you will enjoy the beautiful mountain view. And we are now designing a nice privacy shading things, not too much, not to make too heavy, and some visitations. Because I like people to enjoy their life, traditional Mediterranean lifestyle on these balconies. And once the life is coming out to the balconies, then the whole impression of the architecture is not defined by the shape of the architectures, but could be defined by the various different activities on the balconies. So of course, this whole shape is quite unique. It's really fundamental in a sense. It's really fundamental, but at the same time, it's quite new. So the beautiful combination of the old traditional things and the new concept together. But finally, the whole shape is unique, but my intention is this landmark could be the landmark by the group of the lifestyle itself. Many parcels or deck chairs and tables and something visitations and the conversations, activities on the balconies. So all the buildings are covered by such an activities and the life of Montpellier. Then it is, the whole thing is really amazing three-dimensional layers of the life itself. The architecture itself is go behind it, and the life is coming front. And then the local people hopefully will be proud of their life, and then they can enjoy their lifestyle. So that kind of things is, of course, we are designing architecture, but at the same time, we can design the life on it, or we can design the new activities on it, or we can design the connections to the past traditional things to the futures. So that kind of meanings, I like this project because it is really usual, but it's really unusual things together. And this is now, they will start selling the apartment very soon, so you could buy it. You could enjoy it. And I hope you to buy it to support the whole project. Anyway, okay. So I was talking about many different projects. Some of them looks quite different from some of them, but the concept undergoing throughout the whole project is like that. It's like how we can find new values between the usual one side and usual another side. Nature and architecture is really fundamental. Outside, inside, traditional things and the future lifestyles, furniture scales, architecture scales, and the landscaping scales, and the relationship, the public and private, and the simplicity, complexity, something like that. So everything is very usual, but we could find some new frontiers in between that. So that is the things I talk today. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'd like to have many questions because the conversation is always quite exciting there, over there. Yeah. Any kinds of question is fine.
Hi, I'm Canan Pürgen. I'm an industrial designer, and at first, thank you for this beautiful and funny presentation.
Thank you.
I will have two questions, if you like. First one is the one that I'm sure has been asked you before, but I will add a twist. What's the first reaction of your clients about the transparency, especially on the more private and intimate areas like bedroom, bathroom, and toilet? And in the specific example of that public toilet, you made a very smart solution by creating a private garden for toilet, but that garden can contain maybe 30 standard and blind-walled toilets. How did you persuade your client? And the second one is about the house, and how did you solve the weather and climate issues like rain and heating, since the houses outer exterior walls have great openings? And that's all. Okay.
Yeah, the first one, the toilet. Fortunately, there are basic requirements to make just one toilet. So they didn't like to have 30 toilets on that site. But of course, at the very beginning, they didn't expect such a things. They just say, this is a site. And I visited the site, and the surroundings was so beautiful. So I thought it's very pity to make such a, black box-like toilet. So we started to think about how we can open the experience of the toilet, of course, at the same time keeping the safety and privacies of the toilet. That was the starting point. And then, fortunately, that area was a countryside. So around the site, they had the space. So at the very beginning, they say just, around here is a site, but I saw bigger areas was just empty. So we just proposed for fun, if it is possible, like to use these big areas for the toilet because of that kind of concept. And at the first meeting, everybody says, "Wow, this is very, very exciting and very nice ideas, but maybe it is impossible." They said. Okay, yeah, and of course I was expecting such a, how to say, usual reactions, but then suddenly the vice city mayor, she is rather young, maybe younger than me. Vice city mayor passed by, and then she saw the proposal and she just said, "Wow, sounds very exciting. Let's do this." And then everybody says, "Wow, this is possible." So sometimes even the public things, one person who understands and who can say, "Yeah, let's go it," and then it is happening. Of course, that is a small project, so that kind of a miracle happened. It means it is not always like economical reasons to make an architecture, because after the finishing of this project, and of course finally we made it within the budget, so that was very important. They said the budget, at the first meeting they said the budget is something like this, it's not big. So we tried, even making such a big wall, we tried to push it into the budget. So that is why we make such a primitive way to make a wall. But anyway, so sometimes the value of architecture is not just how to say, economical usual meanings. After the completion of this toilet, it's positively, negatively, it's published really, really widely. And then the name of the city, it is usually nobody knows, but the name of the city is really, really widespread. It's something beyond the value of or beyond the cost of the constructions. It is, in a sense, it has the meanings. And the second question is, in case of the house N, it is, of course, the big box has no glass, but the middle box has glass and the skylights. So it has no problems. No rain comes into your house directly in it. And the big box itself is working like a sunshade, because it has a big box, and of course it has openings, but most of the sunlight are blocked by the structure itself, and it has a tree in it. So the trees and the big shelves is like a sunshade, working as a sunshade. So in that sense, it is working in an ecological meaning as well. And of course, in the winter time, it's the tree leaves is gone, so more sunlight is coming in. So in that sense, of course, not only just satisfied with the basic functional things, but I like to add more values, physical values on it, as well as more rich experience values as well. Thank you. Oh, and one more over there. There.
Merhaba.
Hello.
Benim 2'den fazla 3 tane sorum olacak uygun olursa. Birinci sorum bu ilk projeniz, pavilyon projesiyle ilgili. Konuşmanızın içerisinde sürekli bir iç mekan ve dış mekan kelimesinden ve aynı zamanda bir koruma ve korunmaktan bahsediyoruz. Ama benim şahsi görüşüm, sizin iç mekan diye bahsettiğiniz şey aslında bana göre dış mekan. Bu iç mekanda korunmaktan kastedilen biz neyden korunuruz? Ya bana göre açıkçası sesten, görüntüden, görünmekten, bir darbeden korunabiliriz. Ya size göre iç mekan ne demek, dış mekan ne demek? Bunu öğrenmek istiyorum. İkinci sorum da bu NA House ile ilgili. Bu kullanıcı odaklı soruya bir ek olarak kullanıcı dışında çevre bu projeyle ilgili ne düşünüyor? İkincisi de açıkçası ev gibi çok böyle özel işlevlerin yapılabileceği bir evin programın içerisinde böyle bir yapıyı çözmeye çalışmanız çok ilginç geldi bana. Şahsen ben kendi evimde yeri geldiği zaman eşimle rahat rahat kavga edebileceğim, yeri geldiği zaman pijamayla dolaşabileceğim bir ortam isterim. Hani kullanıcı tuvalet ve yatak odası dışında bir evin gerekliliklerini yerine getirebiliyor mu? Çünkü sizin gösterdiğiniz fotoğraflarda hep pantolon ve tişörtle duruyorlardı. Üçüncü sorum da kütüphane projenizle ilgili. Oradaki raflar temizleniyor mu? Kaç kişi temizliyor? Ne kadar süre temizliyor?
Okay. Thank you very much. The first question was, what is that? First question, protected feelings. And of course, for example, in case of the house NA or house N, there is no completely protected areas because of the client's requirements. So for me, the ideal house has the really wide range of such a gradations. This side completely protected, so like a box, and then gradually it has layers of the open, and then on this side it's almost completely open, but slightly protected, slightly covered, or slightly define the boundaries from the urban situations, for example. Then you could choose, if you really likes to do kind of a secret things or private things, you can come into the really deep private areas. And then if you really like open and enjoy the good weather, you can go this side. And we could say, for example, house NA is like to make this area, if you have this range from the extremely private to the public areas, house NA is maybe making these areas, not having super private areas. And house NA, house N maybe something like this or something like that. So every time we can choose which area we can cut out to make it realized, depending on the client's requirements. And of course, recently we have more and more international projects. And then I get more international, more requirements to have the really protected bedrooms for them, or 2-3 bedrooms. Then of course I start from this end, but how to include this side is still open, and it's still open to our creativity. So in that meanings, it is the house NA or house N is not the final answer, but it is just an examples to create such a gradations or soft territories. But it is not the, answers for all. So even for me, the house NA is too open. So maybe I like to have one box inside of the house. So maybe it is the answers to the second questions. Yeah, in case of the house NA, it's quite open. But thinking about the surroundings, it is in the middle of the Tokyo situation. And as I said in the very beginning, the first image, the Tokyo situations are made by many, many small things coming together to create the soft territory or soft living environment. And that house is also almost the same way to make the living environment. So in that sense, it doesn't look like the neighbor's house. It's so different from a neighbor's house. But how the space are made is quite similar to how the Tokyo urban situations are made. So I think in such a deeper meanings, it is responding to the context, surroundings, I believe. So sometimes that kind of deepest connections could work, because in Tokyo situations, all the neighbors' private houses will be changing, will be replaced in 20 years or sometimes 10 years. So all the neighbors is changing. So we couldn't depend on the physical things of the neighbors. We just depends on, or we just can based on the basic concept how the Tokyo urban situations are made. So that is my strategies. And the last question, the library, how to clean it? Of course, thousands of the people don't have to work. Because, of course, the same discussion happened during the design process. And then we did a research at the existing library of the old library of the university. And then we checked the dust on the bookshelf, on the top of the bookshelves. Maybe it didn't have the cleanings for 10 years, for example. And then it was almost 1 millimeter. So then we said, not 1 millimeter, but 0.5 millimeter something. So we said, in 10 years, you have 0.5 millimeter dust. So if you don't like, you can clean it once in 10 years. So you don't have to worry too much about that. And I believe they didn't any cleanings on the bookshelf, but it's still no problem. So maybe our researches may make some result, I believe. But of course, if you like, you can clean every day and to make it perfectly something. Okay. Then thanks. Some other questions? Or yeah, here.
Thanks very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm kind of working on housing, mainly focusing on the time period after World War II. And looking from this geography, I find modern Japanese housing very fascinating. I know this might be a big question to ask, even we can say still a big question, but where do you think this is coming from? You know, we can say that maybe combining the tradition and the technology well, or what else? What do you think?
You mean what is coming? What is this kind of a crazy Japanese house is coming from?
Yeah. Also, you're lucky to have clients to ask for you to design public toilets like that.
Yeah. Actually, in Japan, we have 99% of the Japanese people just like to have a usual houses, but only 1% of the clients likes to have something more, something new, or something fit to their life. And of course, fortunately, the clients coming to me is already checking my previous works, and then they thought, well, this crazy guy could make some crazy things for them. It is the starting point. But of course, it's not just the crazy things, but first of all, Japanese plot is quite small. So even though we tried as much as possible, but the usual house is just a small usual house, then some of the people think, I don't want to have a small usual house. Even small, but kind of some special aspects, special point I like to have. That is the starting point. And then, of course, what is special is the problem. Sometimes the special things for him and different from the special things for them, but the conversations between the clients and the architects could crystallize some special things only based on the site and based on the clients and based on the architects. So it is like a collaboration. Then finally, some really unique answer is coming out. So in that sense, such kind of a Japanese, a poor situation of the plot is, push people to make something more and more, something so different, special things. But of course, at the same time, the Japanese traditional things is also somehow relating to the Japanese contemporary architecture, I think, because that kind of flexibility or openness or nice ambiguity has still kind of a value on our life. But of course, the traditional Japanese and our contemporary life is completely different. So architects have to re-innovate or retranslate traditional things into the contemporary architectures. And that is the field of the creativity, I think, to re-innovate things. So that is maybe another thing. But I think, recently, again, I got more and more international commission of the private houses. And most of such international clients also like to have such a special things different from a usual house. Of course, likes to have a usual bedrooms, but still have something more. So I feel it is not limited in Japan, but internationally, many people likes to have special house and the good quality of the architecture and like to experience such a special feelings of architecture. So in that sense, I'm very optimistic about architectural design. And
hello again.
oh yeah,
Yeah, one more question. Actually, I have two questions if we all have time.
Yes.
The first one is, constructability, budget issues, and some, for example, municipality limitations and everything. These may be sometimes inspiring, but as well as blocking and limiting for the designer. So sometimes there are two dead ends with avoiding them all and endless imagination with no constructability, or having them at the very beginning, which result with limitation of the design and imagination. So in what stage do you prefer to include them in, or are they with you all the time, or you let yourself free and at one point you say, oh, let's see if this is in budget, or if the municipality is okay with this, or the constructability. This is my first question. And the second is coming to the house N again. It was in a really strong neighborhood with a strong identity. So it was actually a response, or more a reaction to the neighborhood, and it's an inspiring space as well. But what about its relationship with the neighborhood, between its relationship with the nature itself? It's an artificial nature it has around it. So these are two questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The first one, the regulation, restriction, everything. Yeah, of course, every architecture project has such restrictions. The budget and the regulations and the climate conditions and the requirement, everything. So I just, like to have it, and based on that, I like to start. So every restriction is not the restrictions. It's just sometimes it is part of the inspirations. So I like to be very positive, because if we think it is just the restrictions, it's not very fun to think about architecture. So I just like to enjoy that kind of restrictions. Sometimes it's really low budget, then like to think about something only possible in such a low budget, or different strategies. It is also very creative. Like a toilet, it is rather low budget, but try to maximize the experiences through that side. And of course, the size of the project is also quite small. It's almost like a 5 square meter something, interior space, less than 5 square meters. But still, we have a lot of things we can do, we can propose. And the second one is the neighborhood. Yeah, House N or House NA, it's both of them quite, beautiful contrast in a sense, or a bad contrast between the surroundings. And fortunately, for example, if we design something in Paris, I like to respect the city of Paris, and I like to make kind of a conversations between the history of the Paris. But as I said, in Japan, the residential area neighborhood is always changing in 20 years, for example, something. So if you, if you try to fit to some neighborhood, but 20 years later, everything is gone, and you will be in lost. So for me, it is more important to think about how will be the future ideal or possible living environment, or what is the new typology of the private house in these kind of site conditions. Then we could propose for the future. And if our proposal is attractive or powerful enough, then step by step, the neighbors could take the similar strategies, for example, to create the harmony with the surroundings. Of course, some of them don't take the strategy, so not the perfect harmony, and I don't want to force everybody to follow my strategies. But yeah, and Japanese urban fabric is kind of a beautiful diversities is the character. So in that sense, it is a really Japanese maybe situation, but I just make it, let it be like that. Of course, depends on the situations. In Paris, different. In LA, different. In São Paulo, different. But every time, to think about how to understand the context or how to understand the neighbors' surroundings is very, very important, I think. Okay. Oh, some more around there?
Hi, thank you for such an inspiring lecture, first of all.
Thank you.
My question is about the Serpentine Pavilion. My question is about how you felt about creating something so beautiful and putting so much of yourself into it, and knowing that only a certain amount of people would be able to go visit it because of the time limitations. Like, did it upset you when you saw it when it was being brought down? And like, what are your thoughts about transience and permanence in architecture?
Yeah, actually, it was really beautiful and amazing experience. And of course, I was there only the week of the opening, and that memory was one of my lifetime beautiful memory. And for me, of course, now it's gone and it's somewhere in the storage. But I don't care so much about that. Of course, I like more and more people can experience such a historical, beautiful structures. But anyway, it is like that. And it is like, how to say, from the beginning, it is a limited things. So, but more important things for me is to create the basic concept and to realize it, and I myself or some people experience it. So then people can describe it or can have the influence from that or to create something inspired by that, such kind of the continuity of the histories. Even though that architecture itself has gone, but the influences or the impact is continuing, I think. So in that sense, I don't care so much about, how to say, it is just a temporary or it is gone. And fortunately, the pavilion itself has been bought by the collector. And she is now planning to rebuild it in the site of in the south of France, maybe next year or the next year. So, of course, the situation is getting different, but you will see it again. Yeah. So, in that meanings, it is still surviving, I think. Thanks. And yeah.
Hello, my name is Ramzi Sharif. I'm an architecture student. I have a question concerning the Serpentine Pavilion. In the design, like there's so much use of dense pipes in such areas. And the concept of transparency, like do you think these dense panels somehow disturb the natural view around, or maybe distracts the viewer's attention when viewing these dense pipes inside? Thank you.
Oh yeah, actually, you don't have the clear view to the surroundings in a sense. So for example, if you have some iconic buildings, or if you have some access to make clear view, then we have to find some nice way to make it clear. But fortunately, the surroundings was like many beautiful trees. So even though it is, how to say, filtered by such many structures, you can see it or you can feel it. And that was the very amazing moment. Almost the structure itself and the greens are melting together to create such a soft boundaries. It was amazing moment. But of course, if it is on the, how to say, in Paris on the axis, maybe I could make one clear openness to make the beautiful access to the, for example, Eiffel Tower or something like that. So it is depending on the situations. But sometimes we can feel the atmosphere as atmosphere, and we can physically feel the atmosphere and a mixture of different materials together. That was surprising, even surprising for me. Okay, the last two questions, yeah?
Konnichiwa, 本間は日本語で聞きたかったんですけれども、トルコ語
yeah.
で聞きます。
Yeah.
Biz birinci sınıf mimarlık öğrencileriyiz. Biz birinci sınıf mimarlık öğrencileriyiz ve siz de öğrencilik hayatınız boyunca nasıl geçirdiniz, hangi aşamaları atlattınız? Ve bunun hakkında hani bize tavsiyeleriniz neler olabilir? Onları sormak istiyorum. それで後で一緒に写真も撮ってほしいんですけれども。
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, when I was a student, I was influenced by Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe and Ruiz Kahn, that kind of a really, masters of modern architecture. Because in Japanese university, we started the education of architecture from them. And Frank Lloyd Wright, of course. So that kind of a, historical guys were the hero for me. And I myself was, yeah, in a sense, it's a very, very good student. I did the really hardworking and I did really surprising things. But sorry, it's half joke, of course. But yeah, I was very good in school. But of course, good in school doesn't mean anything because I feel I learned and I thought and I created much, much more after the school period than the school period. Yeah, after the school, I was for about 7-8 years, I was almost alone. I didn't work for anybody. I didn't go to any other schools, just alone to think about the concept of my future Fujimoto architecture. And throughout that period, that was very strange period. Really isolated, but full of time and think about some dreamy things and to create the starting point of my architecture things. That was very beautiful moment. But of course, in my student days, I just got the, passion for architecture. That was the most important things, I think. I got a really big passion. I like architecture, I like to do architecture, and I like to create some new architecture, surprising things. That kind of motivations and passions are created in the school days. Then afterwards, 10 years, no projects or hundreds of competitions, losings is no problem because I just like to architecture. So in that sense, yeah, in your school days, you can just create your passions or you just give up architecture. I think, yeah, you have both choice because architecture is not for everybody. If you like architecture, you do architecture. If you don't like architecture, you do some different things because we have hundreds of different professions. I just like architecture, so I did. And one more thing is, hope you to learn and experience the history of architecture. That is the most important things. And you have, fortunately, you are lucky because you have the old historic area of the Istanbul. I was dreaming for years and years in the school days, and finally I came here after the school. But you can go tomorrow to see such a great historical things. And of course, not only the Istanbul or Turkish things, but you will see the whole history of the architecture. And that is quite amazing. So I recommend you to enjoy, not study, but enjoy the historical architecture, and every historical architecture could be the inspirations. Okay, thank you. And then the last one, maybe there, over there.
Merhaba, ben Şerife Özata. Ben sunduğunuz projelerde taşıyıcı sistem hakkında bir soru sormak istiyorum. Birincisi yarışma projenizde, bir diğeri ise Paris'teki, Fransa'daki projenizle ilgili. Yarışma projenizde fark ettiğim kadarıyla konsol kirişler üzerine tekrar konsol kirişler çıkarak çok geniş bir açıklık geçmişsiniz. Bunun taşıyıcı sistemini çok merak ettim. Nasıl çözdünüz bu problemi? Çünkü algıladığım kadarıyla çok büyük bir açıklık geçmişsiniz fakat burada sürekli devam eden bir konsol giriş kullanmışsınız. Bir ikincisi de Fransa'da bildiğim kadarıyla deprem riski yok ama yine binanın etrafında konsol balkonlar çıkmışsınız. Bunu taşıyıcı sistemde bu problemi nasıl çözdünüz? Bunu merak ettim. Teşekkür ederim.
Yeah, of course, architecture design is deeply relating such a technical or engineering things. And fortunately, I have a very good engineering partner. And I myself, of course, somehow understand the basic things of the structural things or basic things of the ecological ventilations and something like that. Then it is like a collaborations. Our visions, we have our visions, but the structural engineer says something, but we counter-propose something, this is possible, or this possibility is something. So such kind of discussions is making the ideas more and more reach to the higher point. So yeah, finally, recently I realized architecture design, in my school days, I like to do my architecture design by myself, only by myself, control everything. But recently, I'm more and more enjoying to have a discussion, collaborations, because many people has its own ideas, and sometimes some ideas is something beyond me, and then I get an inspiration from them. So the collaboration discussions is creating my ideas. It's really powerful, or to make it jump to some unknown places. And not only the design, but the engineering things and the ecological strategies or landscaping things, everything is like a collaborations. So I hope you maybe in future to learn such kind of a excitement of the collaborations and the excitement of the, how to say, to make your own ideas much expanding through the discussions. And of course, yeah, technically it's just solve it according to the concept. And you don't have to compromise. You have your visions, and then you talk with the engineers, solve it to find the new solutions, new materials, and something like that. That is the things. It's really, how to say, necessary and really exciting. Okay. Finally, thank you very much. I really enjoy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I have to stay here. Yeah. Now
Actually, I would like to thank you once again.
Thank you very
really,
much.
It was a great presentation, projects, and then it was also great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
On this meeting,
Yeah.
tea meetings, and also as a member of tonight for two tea meetings, tea conferences, we have a small thing,
okay.
and it's very simple.
Wow,
we actually we thought a lot on this, but it's so simple, but
Great.
meaningful. Actually,
Yeah.
we decided at the end we decided to use just steel and glass.
Okay, yeah.
And then
Wonderful.
thank you for
Thank you very
your
much.
valuable time,
you.
participation. Really, we enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to you also.
Thank you. Wow. Beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. Please, I think he's taking a photo.
Ah, okay.
For the photo, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, show
like
the glass
this?
and
Yeah. Thank you.
Teşekkürler
Thank you very
değerli
much.
katılımınız için. Sağ olun, iyi akşamlar.